Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Sometimes a single picture so perfectly crystallizes a moment that you want to hang in a museum as a testament to history. Decades from now, our descendants will look at this one image and know what it was like to live in America in the year 2020. We'll show it to you in just a second. But first, some context. Gavin Newsom is the governor of California, our largest and for a long time our most prosperous state. About 40 million people live in California. So far, 2 of them under the age of 18 have died of the COVID-19 virus. So naturally, Gavin Newsom has shut down the entire state. Businesses are shuttered, people wear masks even as they eat. Large groups are forbidden to congregate. Thanksgiving itself is on its way to being canceled. It's a tough way to live, but Californians have no choice. This is science, people. And Gavin Newsom is California's epidemiologist in chief. He commands obedience, and the serfs obey. With that in mind, the San Francisco Chronicle broke a pretty amazing story this week. Governor Newsom recently attended a birthday dinner up in wine country at the French Laundry. That's one of the best and most expensive restaurants in the world. There were 12 people at Newsom's dinner, and to civilians, that number seemed to be a clear violation of Newsom's own rules. But as we were told, it really wasn't. It turns out that Newsom was simply celebrating the birthday of a longtime friend of his, a lobbyist actually, called Jason Kinney. A spokesperson for Kinney described the night this way, quote, "This was a small, intimate 12-person dinner held outdoors with family and a few close friends to celebrate a 50th birthday." In other words, no big deal. For his part, Governor Newsom assured his suffering subjects that, quote, "Our family followed the restaurant's health protocols and took safety precautions." So really, ladies and gentlemen, it was nothing. Just a small, intimate dinner held in nature, under God's blue skies, just a few close friends staying safe and following the protocols to the letter. That was the story. Now the photograph. It's a picture of the birthday dinner up in Napa. It turns out it was not held outside. It was held in a private room, and not a spacious private room either. All 12 people were packed in tight, shoulder to shoulder, breathing on each other. No social distancing here. Not one of them is wearing a mask. A steam room in central Wuhan could not be more contagious than this dinner. Gavin Newsom's birthday party was a germ factory, and his guests were human petri dishes. But what a guest list it was. Next to Governor Newsom sat the CEO of the California Medical Association, and one over from him, one of the state's top health lobbyists. Together, the two of them represent tens of thousands of physicians, credentialed men of science and women of science in the state of California. So if you're wondering why, if you live in California, you can't have Thanksgiving this year or visit your mother as she dies alone in the hospital, it is because of them and people like them. And yet there they were, eating $300 truffle pasta and living like this pandemic thing never even happened. Here you have plutocrats dining with lobbyists, ignoring the very orders they're so self-righteously imposing on others, gorging themselves in seclusion as the people they're supposed to be helping wither and die. And then when they're caught, they lie about it. How perfect is that? It's all there, every element. Hypocrisy, greed, selfishness, stupidity. This is our national moment in a single picture. Move over, Dorothea Lange. Gavin Newsom's explanation, though obviously untrue, is still better than what his buddy, the lobbyist, the guy they're having the dinner for, has come up with. Through a spokesman, he said, whoa, the guest specifically requested outdoor seating, and that was provided by the restaurant. Indoor seating, rather. Indoor. That's what they really were doing. He's saying they were outdoors, but now we have a picture showing that, and he's still claiming it. No, it was outdoors. In other words, ignore the walls and the roof. What looks like inside was actually outside. Got that? Up is down, black is white, war is peace. Trust me, not your lying senses. Here's LA Mayor Eric Garcetti explaining how he will handle people who don't obey.
This has really been marvelously embraced by 99.9% of people. We see it in the traffic data, we see it in the cell phone data, but we're going to hunt down that last 0.1%.
So what is this exactly? It's hypocrisy, of course. That word's not big enough. This is not conventional hypocrisy. This is, let's stop lying, an act of hostility against the population of the country. This is how people who don't like you behave. They force you to do one thing, they do another, they get caught, they're not embarrassed, and they keep forcing you to do the thing they're not doing.
I rise this morning in defense of Governor Gavin Newsom, who recently defied his own idiotic COVID edicts as he partied at one of the few restaurants that's not yet been forced out of business. I defend him because he was doing what we once all did in a free society, make our own decisions over what risks we're willing to run and what precautions we're willing to take according to our own circumstances to protect our own health. Yes, COVID is a nasty bug, and 250,000 Americans have died while having it. But this isn't the bubonic plague. The CDC's best estimate is that if you're under 49, your chance for surviving COVID, if you get it, is 99.92%. Even if you're over 70, you have a 94.6% rate of recovery. 40% who get it don't even know they have it. And yet we've allowed our officials to ruin our quality of life over it, destroying countless businesses, throwing tens of millions into unemployment, robbing our children of their educations, and shredding our most cherished rights as Americans. Governor Newsom's night of partying should be a wake-up call for every American. Every time we step outside our homes, the risks that we face multiply. A free society assumes that its citizens are competent to assess those risks, balance them against the avoidance costs, and to manage their decisions in a generally responsible way. It's called common sense, and it's a necessary prerequisite for self-government and liberty. The choice of an octogenarian with emphysema might be very different from those of a healthy governor of California. Only a fool would claim the omniscience to make an informed judgment for every person in every circumstance in every community. Yet sadly, this crisis has revealed that fools abound in public office and that a fool with power can quickly become a petty tyrant. Which brings us back to Governor Newsom. These government nannies love to tell us that they're just following the science. Well, what does the science actually tell us? It tells us that COVID poses virtually no risk to children, but can be severe among the elderly. So what did these lockdown leftists do? They closed all the schools and ordered infected patients into nursing homes. The science tells us that outdoor transmissions of the virus are extremely rare and that 80% of infections occur in people's homes. So what did these lockdown leftists do? They closed our beaches, parks, and campgrounds and ordered people to stay at home. The science tells us that obesity is a contributing factor to the severity of the disease. So what did these lockdown leftists do? They closed all the gyms and kept the liquor stores open. These lockdowns haven't saved lives. The states with the most stringent lockdowns generally have the highest mortality rates from COVID. Utah stayed open while next door Colorado shut down. Utah currently has half the COVID mortality rate and 3/4 the unemployment rate as Colorado. But the lockdowns have cost countless lives, from suicides, drug and alcohol abuse, domestic violence, and deferred health screenings and treatments. Recently, Governor Newsom demanded that restaurant diners replace their masks after every bite, but also minimize the times they're taken off. I guess that means you take really big bites. Thanksgiving dinners are allowed in California, but only when they're held outside, guests are seated 6 feet apart, and they last no more than 2 hours. Now, it's all right to use the bathroom, but only if it's frequently sanitized. Otherwise, presumably, you'll just have to use the bushes. And for God's sake, no singing. I've wondered how much longer the American people are going to tolerate this nonsense. So let us not criticize Governor Newsom. Perhaps he's just offered us all deliverance from his own folly. Nor should we criticize the California legislators who ignored travel and quarantine restrictions to junket in Hawaii. Nor should we ridicule Speaker Pelosi for choosing not to wear a mask in a hair salon that was forced to close for the rest of us. Good for them. They're demonstrating by their actions the freedom that every American citizen needs to reclaim from these very same people. The governor should make his own decisions about running his own life. I only ask that he and his ilk would stop telling the rest of us how to run ours. I yield back.